There's always that opportunity to change the way you look at things, your perspective. It's like never too late to start that new era.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a Miami native. I am a content creator and also a social strategist. So I work with brands based in LA and New York, and but also do my own social media influencing on the side. So
wow.
yeah.
How did you get into that?
So back in the Vine days, my sister
Whoa,
and I,
Vine! We throwing it back. Okay, so
like,
you've been in this
I'm
game.
OG. Like,
okay,
back,
OG. I like that. Stamp of approval.
Totally OG. And my sister and I were doing it for fun. Like, we were kids, you know. And one of her friends really blew up on Vine, and then I think from there we started realizing the opportunity to like monetize, you know, and create a brand and just be exposed to opportunities and experiences. I think entertainment is something that I always really loved, and I think that was like my door in. And then from there, I just like decided to major in marketing and actually minor in social media analytics. So then that's when I got my first job in LA. So I moved to LA, and then here we are. Just like 10 years later. It's crazy. Well, it's like 8 years. Yeah.
What made you choose Tuesdays with Morrie as your book?
So I will be honest with you. I am not the biggest reader.
Okay,
and I know
we're
this
here
is
for it.
like book BFFs.
Yes.
So this is off brand. But my, friends have been trying to get me to read this book for a long time. And then this past summer, I did a lot of traveling. So I had the time, between trains and whatnot. So I was like, you know what? It looks short and it looks digestible. So I'm going to read it. And that was it. I think it was a really nice message. Yeah.
And I do want to say that it is on brand, because the thing with reading is, I used to tell myself, I'm not a reader, I'm not a reader, I'm not a reader. Until one day I was just like, I'm just not reading the books that I like.
Right.
And that's the difference, So even being able to use this show as motivation to read a book is inspiring within itself.
Totally.
So to all the listeners out there who say they're not readers, just start with one book and get to it.
I think it's about finding your niche and category that you like. And I feel like I'd love like a true crime book or something. I just don't do it, but I want to. It's
maybe this is the start of newness for you.
Maybe so.
The start of something new.
Yeah, exactly.
How have you been able to apply the lessons in this book into your personal life?
Oh my God, there's so many lessons. I feel like it's literally Morrie one seems like the cutest old man. I've never had like a grandpa, so I'm like, I wish I had someone like him. But I feel like I walked away with so many messages. I really enjoyed the one about getting older, like that whole chapter, because instead of positioning it like, your life is over, you're decaying, like, oh my God, I wish I was young. It's more so like you're growing into yourself, you're experiencing so many new things, and you're so much more knowledgeable than you were 10, 15 years ago. So I think I'm trying to adapt that now. I'm in my late 20s. So I'm like at this like not midlife crisis, whatever, quarter, whatever. Yeah.
I say this is a thing.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not like, the youngest kid in the room anymore. And it sounds silly to other people, but like, I'm going to be 30 soon. And it's like crazy, So I think I'm just like trying to take from that a little bit and be like, shut up, relax. You're so much better version of yourself now than you were 10 years ago, know? So that's what I'm trying to think.
Yes. Okay. So I have a personal theory that quarter life crisis is a thing.
Oh, it's totally a thing.
It's a thing, right?
It's totally a thing. Yeah. Because think about it. You're not like 18, 19, 20, so you can't be like messing around anymore.
Right.
But you're also not like, oh my God, I have my whole life figured out, which I don't know if you ever do. But you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's a thing.
Yeah. I just feel like when we're younger, we think by the time we hit 30, we have to have it like
totally
all figured out, and then life just happens. And
totally.
when you hit 25, you're like, well, what do I have under my name? What do I own? What have I accomplished? Where am I at in my life?
Yeah.
What is this? I'm not a young buck anymore, but I'm not old. And like I'm in this awkward in between stage. And I personally think it's healthy, because I feel like it saves you some time from when you hit your midlife crisis. It's not as deep because you've already done the quarter life crisis.
Right.
So
I also think 30's changed a lot.
Yes,
like when our parents were 30, they were like having kids and getting married and whatnot. And then now it's like just not the same, So I think it's just a different generation. And
for sure.
So I'm just like, I'm taking it a day at a time.
Day.
Yeah.
How would you describe this book?
Just a very like sweet lesson. I feel like, it's not like this super exciting story. It's not this super cliffhanger. It's just kind of to walk away with kind of a different point of view that you may not have looked at it in a certain way. And I think that's the whole point of the book.
Yeah. What I find really beautiful is how Mitch reconnects with his college professor, Morrie, right?
Yeah.
And him overcoming the final stages of his life with ALS. is such a huge lesson, because one of the biggest takeaways I feel like I received was he's basically like in his last years, and he's like, the biggest thing I regret is holding resentment.
Yeah.
Holding resentment.
Yeah.
Have you ever held any resentment?
I think we all have, for sure. I think I'm at a point now where I'm in a good place, but things happen in your youth and your childhood, and you see your parents a certain way, but I think when you get older, you realize like your parents are like humans, you know what I mean? And they're you know what I mean? And they were our age at one point. So then when you're younger, you're so angry, but then you kind of like let it go, or I tried to, you know what I mean? So I feel like if I just passed away today, I don't feel like I have any real resentment with anyone right now. But I
love
have,
that.
of course, at one point.
Yeah, it's part of the process, part of the human experience.
Totally. Yeah.
How do you feel about forgiveness?
I think it's important for sure. I'm, again, getting to a good place in terms of forgiveness on things of my past that like may have made me angry at one point. But I feel like it's the best thing for a person, because when you hold that resentment, it's just like the only person you're hurting is yourself. You know what I mean? So, but obviously it's easier said than done. And I can't speak for everybody's experiences who have gone through some crazy, traumatic experiences. Like they are entitled to their feelings too. So I don't want to tell anyone to feel a certain way. But from my point of view, it's best to just like let it go,
Yeah.
I lived in LA during my early mid 20s, and it was just a super difficult time. Really cool opportunities and experiences, but also like a lot of growth. And I think that experience as a whole taught me that lesson, just to like just be yourself and not care what anyone thinks. I think when you're younger, like in high school and stuff, you're so caring about what people think or what they're saying, and it's like you just can't control what everyone thinks. So you just got to do your thing,
What was your most difficult moment living in LA?
I don't know if like once I can't speak to one moment, but it was definitely like, I would say the hardest year is like 2019. I don't know why that year like sticks out to me, but it was rough. I was just like I think I was like 24 or something. And I was really like in between, like, what am I doing? That quarter life crisis.
Yes.
And I was like, it was just like a confusing time for me. And I felt very lonely. I think because I grew up in Miami, I've always been used to having like a giant group of friends and all my family here. So in LA, I felt very like secluded for a bit. But again, that was so important because I started going to events by myself, and like I would have never done that, and I started doing things alone. I'm like, why can't I go to the park by myself? I can go by myself, or go to this event. I have no one to go with, but I was invited, I should go. And I would do it. And it was never like super fun alone. I definitely like had to learn how to be social and network. And I'm so grateful for that now, because I feel like just a better version of myself, than when I moved to LA. But it wasn't easy. Like I remember I'd walk into like rooms full of people, and you know how it is, like in the industry and creators and stuff. And it was rough for sure. But again, it just made me be like, okay, well, you just got to put yourself out there and be yourself. And that's
for sure. And it's cool because the book talks about that self-acceptance. So do you feel you're at a place in your life now where you fully accept yourself?
I am. I really am. I like obviously have my days of self-doubt and days where I'm like, ugh, not feeling my best. But I definitely, looking back a few years, I've come to such a like self-acceptance place. And it's a work in progress. I feel like you're never really, like super 1,000% confident, but I am really happy with where I'm at now.
Good.
So
I love that. Yeah, I can like feel the groundedness in you, and it makes me like really, really happy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
You've worked on a whole bunch of cool projects. What's been your favorite?
I mean, I've worked on it from like a creator, and then I've also worked on it from like a strategist, coordinator point of view. I will say though, the coolest project as a like in my career was, I remember I got looped in to do the campaign for Dear Basketball, which was Kobe Bryant's short film. And he was campaigning to win an Oscar. Like that was the goal. I remember I really didn't know much about Kobe Bryant. Like obviously I knew who he was, but in LA he was like this hero, celebrity. And I walk into a room and it's me, Kobe, and then this old man who literally reminds me of Morrie, Glenn Keane. And I'm like, hi Glenn, nice to meet you. He's like, they're like, do you know who Glenn Keane is? So I was like, no. He's like, he drew The Little Mermaid. He drew Aladdin. Like he is the animator behind all those Disney properties. Wow. And he's like this super unassuming, sweet old man. And I'm like, wow, like I literally told him like I love your work. Like we grew up on that.
Mhm.
Anyways, he drew Kobe's little short film. Our job was to market it on social and on digital and, campaign it around different studios. So I got to travel with Kobe to like all the studios around LA. And then we won the Oscar, which was super exciting. I feel like I won an Oscar.
Wow,
Yeah.
congrats. You did. You're part of that
I literally,
project.
yeah. And I remember
Yes.
we had the wrap party after and the Oscar statue was there. And Kobe, I was never going to grab it or ask for a picture with him because I didn't think it was like professional. And he was so sweet and literally was like, Sebastian, like, grab the Oscar and let's take a picture. Like, you need a picture. And I was like, oh my God. And I have the picture. It's like the coolest thing. And then, what happened a year later with Kobe was so tragic and it was crazy. I was living in LA at the time and I remember I was like in a yoga class and I walked down and had like 30 missed calls. I was like, what's going on? And then I found out, what had happened. So just like a really crazy, but I mean, I'm just grateful for the experience to have been able to work with him and know him. And yeah, so
Right. Was there anything that was impactful that Kobe told you that you were just like, this resonates?
I think just the way he treated everyone around him was really awesome. Like the first day I met him, he knew me by name the second time, and I think working
Mm.
in entertainment, not everybody is like that. And I know it's hard, totally, but he, I think, was very personable and he loved his family. I remember a lot. Like he always talked about his daughter. I met his daughters too and
Wow.
his wife. And I just think he was just a very personable person. So that really I just remember that. Yeah. So,
Wow, that's so beautiful. May
mhm,
he rest in peace. And I'm glad
literally,
that you were able to have that experience with him.
totally. It was like such a cool memory, and like I just really am thankful for that. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's a legend,
Yeah.
totally.
Speaking of legends, what's a legacy that you want to leave behind?
I just want to be remembered for being someone who's fun, just a good time, and someone who's fun but also dependable, someone who works hard, and yeah, someone who was just like a life of the party, just a good energy, I
Yeah.
think.
Bringing light into the room.
Exactly, a light,
You
exactly.
do that effortlessly,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
How do you strategize what brands you work with versus the brands that you turn down?
I mean, I think socials changed a lot, and I
Okay.
think that back in the day, you just did anything, you know what I mean, for $1, like, it didn't matter, and, like and
Facts.
yeah, and I think, users were a lot more gullible, Now
Mhm.
people are like, don't try to sell me a product that you would never use." You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't wanna say the brand, but, like, an offer recently, and I'm just like, it's so not aligned with, like, something I would wear, you know what I mean? And I would like to have cashed in the paycheck, but I was like, it's just not something I wanna promote, you know what I mean? So I said no. So I think it is about finding what makes sense for your brand, and what makes sense for you may not make sense for me. It's, like, different to everybody, but, um, yeah, I think I'm at a point now where it's like, you have to be a little bit picky, and not
Right.
just say yes because you want a paycheck.
How important is living in alignment with your brand and not falling into the paycheck?
It's super important, I think, because your followers can read that, you know what I mean? And people
Mm.
can read that. And it's like, at what cost? You know what I mean? Are you
Yeah.
promoting something that you wouldn't use yourself, whether that's like an energy drink or a vape or a makeup product, something like you might not
Yes.
ever use? I think it's super important. So,
Yes. I
mm,
love that you say that. Like for me, I'm so, so, so strategic with the brands that I partner with.
good. Yeah.
And it might not be 100 brands, but I rather have the top 5 brands that I stand for with the most. That way, when I'm putting myself out there and associating myself with them, it's something meaningful and impactful for me, right? Like you get the freedom to choose what resonates with you, but
Yeah.
really sticking on course with that I think is really important for the authenticity of just who you are. And when you show up authentic,
Hmm.
not that other people need it, but it gives other people permission to be able to be their authentic selves and find their lane of whatever form that is.
I also think the content is so much more like authentic, like you said, when you believe in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And people again are really
for
smart
sure.
now. They can read that. Like I think 10 years ago social was a different game. Now it's like people are calling you out. Like it's like, this is
Yes.
not a good product. Like why are you selling
Right.
this diet, product that may not
Yes.
be good for people, like just because it paid you whatever amount of money. So
Mhm.
yeah. good on the strategy.
Yeah.
So
I'm really big on family, and you've mentioned your sister so much. So
Yeah.
I have to ask, shout out to your sister. What's her name?
Vale.
Vale?
Valentina.
Valentina. Shout out to Valentina. What is your relationship like with your sister Valentina?
It's awesome. I mean, it's just us. You know, there's no other. That would suck if there was like a third sibling.
They'd be left to the side.
No, but just us. And yeah, I mean, the reason it's like we moved to LA together, we work together a lot. You know, we help each other with our, you know, work opportunities and whatnot. And then we also now share a group of friends. You know, she's 3 years younger than me. But we all just share a group of friends. I'm really close to her boyfriend too, who they live together. So she's great. It's awesome. And my parents, I'm very close to too. They're divorced, but I'm independently close to each one. So it's really great to be back in Miami and kind of have that family sense. Yeah.
How has your family impacted your career?
Yeah, I mean, well, my parents, I think, instilled in both of us like hard work. Like that was just, you know, they're Hispanic and very traditional, and they were like, hard work is like a value. It values who you are. You know what I mean? And that was something they always were about. And they were always about business and, you know, all those things. So I think that they instilled in us. But in terms of like the career we're in now, they are like, they don't understand it. Now I think they do after like 8 years, but they're just like, they don't get it. You know what I mean? So I think they would have probably liked if we did something a little bit more traditional. But now I think they're seeing, oh, like cool opportunities and experiences. But yeah, I think they definitely instilled like that hard work ethic, which translates to, you know, our careers now.
Where's your family from? Your parents?
My mom is from Peru. My dad is from Uruguay. And they met here in Miami. And here we are. Yes.
Wow. Have you been to Peru?
Of course. I grew up going like every year.
They
Yeah,
have
I love Peru.
Food.
The best food. Yeah, it's so good.
My mouth is like salivating right now just thinking of eating food in Peru.
Yeah, it's delicious. I probably went like 8 summers in a row. My parents would ship me off all summer, and so I spent a lot of time there.
What's your favorite dish?
I like this dish from the north. It's called arroz con pato. It's like duck, and they make it with like the cilantro. It's so good. Yeah.
Wow, I have to try that.
It's really good. If you like duck, you'll like it.
I've never tried duck.
It's
I didn't
really
even
good.
know that was a thing.
No, it's so good. It's good. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Have you ever had somebody in your life that has struggled with an illness?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For sure. I recently experienced death for my first time. The last couple of years, I had obviously known people who had passed away and whatnot, but the last 2 years, it was like the first time it was like super direct. And it's just like horrible. You know what I mean? It really is, especially when it's like unexpected. At least with Morrie, it was coming. You know what I mean? Not that it makes it any easier, but at least you kind of, you know, start preparing yourself. But when it happens unexpectedly, it's really crazy. Yeah.
The one thing we all know
is
that we're all gonna die.
And they talk about that a lot in the book.
Yeah, and and there's almost this play on words that gets the theme across. Once you know how to die, you know how to live.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And not seeing death as like this horrible tragedy. It's kind of like it's happening. So you just accept it for what it is. And also tying it back to getting older and not being like, oh my God, I'm like decaying or like whatever. It's more so like you are gathering all this experience and knowledge under yourself. And you know what I mean? People who are older may look at people who are younger with jealousy, obviously, but you also are so much more wiser, I think. You know, I think that's the word. So
right. How do you view death?
I'm really not someone who's concerned with my own death. I never have been. Like I get on a plane, I'm like, if it falls, it falls. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? I think I am more, the death of the people around me scare me more. You know what I mean? I don't think my death has ever been something that I'm like freaking out about.
Wow, that's such an interesting perspective.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, if I die, then you just die. I don't know. Like it would just, but I know people who are like, they stay up at night about it.
Yes.
Like what happens after? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I don't know. But I don't know. I don't think about it that way. But if someone close to me, I do, obviously.
Right, because you're still in this physical form and you're feeling the pain versus them, they're gone and they're like, peace. I already did my part. I'm out here, you know, with my people now.
Right.
You know?
I think American culture and society is very like 9 to 5. Like that's what you do and you get married and then you have kids, and then you work, and then you die. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it's our generation is really keen on finding like we're down to work, we're down to find love if it happens, but it's also about
Yes.
finding like something you're passionate about and not being closed in on like this what's expected of you. And I think that's where people
Yes.
die inside because they're just like 40 years working at a job that they hate or in a relationship that they're not happy in like a suburban neighborhood that they don't want to be in, you know what I mean? And it's like because they thought they had to do that, you know? So that's one
Yes.
thing about like with me, I'm like, I can't be like boxed into something that I don't feel like
Yes.
excited about, you know? So,
Yes. And it's interesting because it's what you said, it's our generation. I feel like we're the generation that's pioneering
yeah,
that movement because at the end of the day, our parents had to do that to survive. Times were
totally.
so different, but
Yeah.
as times evolved, so have we.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the place of being able to explore these options that we have that back then they didn't have, being able to explore the
Yeah.
online space that back then wasn't possible.
Right.
And for us now to not only lean into it and explore it, but in that process, finding and creating ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like
Totally.
really being able to own in on that. So when we're on our bed, like Morrie, right? When our time is coming, we can look back and be like, did we live with meaning?
Yeah.
Did we live with fulfillment? Did we lead with
Authenticity.
purpose?
Right.
Authenticity, all of these beautiful things.
Yeah, totally.
Another big takeaway from the book was when he's like, I'm not thinking about any of the material things.
Right.
I'm not thinking about the car. I'm not thinking about the house because I don't take any of that with me.
Right.
So Mitch being in a position of, I'm working super hard. I'm trying to make all this money to create a life for myself. It's really interesting how the end result, those things are irrelevant.
Right.
But when I saw that, my mindset went, wow, every section of your life serves a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a chapter where you're grinding, where you're making money, where you're working hard. Then you're reaping the fruits of that.
Mm-hmm.
You're reaping the fruits of the hard labor, that all that work that you've been putting up, you're eating those fruits to then be like, I enjoyed that time. I experienced it. Now what's that next phase?
Right.
And I think when we start seeing our lives in seasons and as chapters, we get to have fun with it.
Totally. I see my life in eras. Totally. You know, I do, but I never know what era I'm in. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh,
And then
okay.
you look back and you're like, oh, that was like my party boy era. Like that was crazy. And it's fun. You know what I mean? It's not, I never regret anything. Well, maybe I regret some things, but you know, you just like accept it. So yeah, I think I look at my life in eras. So
I love that. I'm
Yeah.
snatching that and putting it in my pocket.
right. And it's like think time passes too. You know what I mean? There's always that opportunity to revamp yourself, change the way you look at things, your perspective. If you want to like start working out, you can start today. If you want to start, you know, painting, start today. Like whatever that is for each individual, I think it's like never too late to start
Right.
that new era. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yes.
maybe I'm in my reading books era.
Maybe.
so.
Let's go. Let's claim that. Your reading books era. Let's
Yeah.
claim that.
Maybe so. Yeah.
And then when you read your next book, we'll have you on the show again.
yeah, totally. Absolutely.
If there was nothing you feared, what would you do?
I'm honestly pretty brave. I will say no one believes that because I think people see my Instagram and think he's like just like taking sexy pictures and like he's like stupid, you know what I mean? But like I'm pretty brave. I've like I'd gone skydiving. I would love to go shark cage diving.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. But if I wasn't afraid of anything, what would I do? I don't know, maybe like perform in front of a bunch of people. That's probably something I'd be nervous about, like stage fright. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I find it so interesting. I feel like a lot of people that show up online and are seen by thousands and millions of people have this comfort with the camera that doesn't translate when they're on a stage.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, not a dig to anybody, but a lot of influencers I met throughout my career are really weird in person or like very socially awkward.
Yes.
And I remember being like, you are not this like YouTube persona that I saw or like whatever. And it's because think about it, you're in your room with your phone or your camera. It's completely different than being in front of an actual group of people. So I remember meeting people and being like, they're very awkward or like just not who they were online.
Right.
And I think it's not always the best thing because like this younger generation that's like growing up online, it's like they're just like living through social media and it's like it's great to have that platform, but it's also important, like the importance of like human interaction and like networking in real life.
Yes.
And even I like had to like grow into that and become who I am now. But it's yeah, it's definitely a little concerning that people
Right.
hide behind their phones and their cameras. So mm.
What's the difference between your online presence and your personal presence?
I think that again, people who may see like my Instagram and stuff may think he's like just a bimbo, dumb, posting shirtless, like sexy things. But I have like a whole career, you know what I mean, as like a strategist and like work with like really cool brands. And I don't always bring that to light on my socials. But my thing is like, why can't you do both? You know what I mean? You could have a serious career and, run really cool campaigns like I do, and also be a sexy firefighter for Halloween. You know what I mean? I'm like, I think that's like what I strive to do is like be both, be myself, and that's who I am. And I don't think you have to pick and choose one. I don't have to be the super serious conservative person online, not doing funny videos or sexy pictures. It's like I have fun doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a little bit of people bringing that up sometimes and thinking I'm not serious because of what they see online, and they're entitled to thinking that. But I think that's what people would walk away with being surprised about, is like I have this whole like authenticity, deepness, and like career to back it, and I'm not just like doing silly sexy gym photos. But I'd love doing that too. You can do both,
Right. Is there any favorite takeaway you have from this book?
I think I said it earlier, like the getting older thing I really liked and tried to take with me. The materials note that he gives, just like that those things don't matter when you're, getting to that age or that moment in your life, stage in your life. So yeah, I think those are things that, if I'm being honest, I have to remind myself about daily. You know what I mean? It's like, don't be, focus on things that don't matter. I definitely fall into that if I'm being authentic.
Yes. Bring it in.
It's so easy in social media. It's so easy in Miami too. You know what I mean? It's like very all around us and stuff. But yeah, I love Morrie. I want to like put him in my pocket. So cute.
He's always in your pocket now.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna play a fun little game.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
It's called Mind Meld.
Okay.
So I'm gonna count to 3 and we're both gonna say a word. And we're gonna continue to do that till we get to the same word. Okay.
But what is there like a word that starts with a letter?
We just start with a very generic word, whatever word comes to your mind.
Okay.
And then we have to try to get into a common theme to get to the same word.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I love this game. All right, so I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then we say the word.
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
book.
Red. We're gonna get a word now between red and book. Okay? 1, 2, 3,
black.
Pen. Okay, black and pen.
Okay.
Between black and pen.
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
ink.
notebook. Okay, we're getting there. A word between ink and notebook. Okay, 1, 2, 3, letters.
We got it.
Oh, that was so good.
Was that like quick?
Yes, that was quick.
Do people take forever sometimes?
It's interesting. Some are quicker than others. It's like, that was the quickest so far, though. So you did it. That was really quick.
Yeah, and I hate games. I'm so bad at games. I
love it.
That was good, though.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
I'm really glad that you came on, and now that people can see like the human side of you and really get to know you on a personal level that you should be showcasing more.
Thank you.
Yes.
This was a great first step in my new era.
Let's go!
In my new era. And yeah, thank you for having me. This was super fun.
You're welcome. Yeah. Where can people find you?
They can follow me on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. Just my name, Sebastian Genta. So
yes.
Name across all handles. So
yes. Well, there you have it, friends. We just finished rapping with Sebastian Genta, discussing Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Let us know what was the best lesson you learned from today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to get your copy of the book today, make sure to click the link in the description below. Turn the page and we'll see you in the next one. Shout out to our sponsor, Local Cold Brew Coffee.